Hello and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. In this video we're going to keep looking at Mirrodin Besieged and move on to Mirrormancy, which is a blue and red deck associated with the Mirrors, as you can see from the symbol on the packaging there. So yeah, it's another blue-red deck after we just had one in the previous set. Kind of like we saw in the last video, we had Doom Inevitable, which was blue-black, and we had blue-black in Scars and Mirrodin, so we'll see what this one does a little bit different to the blue-red Metalcraft deck. So, the foil face red of the deck is Galvanoth, so 3 and 2 red for a 3/3. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may look at the top card of your library. If it's an instant or sorcery, you can cast it without paying its mana cost. So that's a pretty good effect, I think. Obviously, this effect, gets stronger depending on the quality of instant sorceries in your deck. There's a fair amount in the deck, so it's kind of blue-red spells, I guess. Whether or not it does it well is something we'll discover as we go through the deck. But yeah, overall, I think this is like a kind of like a fun rare. It feels very out of place. I'm not gonna lie. Like in Mirrodin, it feels like because original Mirrodin and Darksteel, that block really had a history of like printing just some really random rares that like just felt very, very strange. And that's the feeling I get of Galvanoth. Like, I don't know, it just doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't feel like a Mirrodin card. This feels like it could be like in almost any set. But yeah, I mean, like the effect is good, but I say it does depend on what cards it has to work with, I suppose. So yeah, moving on. So then we've got 2 Blister Stick Shamans, 2 and a red for a 2/1. When it enters the battlefield, does 1 damage to type creature or player. This is essentially like an upgrade of the old Spark Mage Apprentice, which was essentially this, but it had 1 power. It's like one cheaper, I suppose. This is all right, I guess. It kills X1s, and then is a 2/1, I suppose. Like really struggling to think of anything constructive to say about Blister Stick Shaman. I don't know. I feel like this would always feel expensive. Like you would not feel great about playing it, just because like 1 damage is like it can ping off like annoying little X1s like in block that would be like Plague Stinger, that I can think of off the top of my head. But it's okay for a common, I suppose. And then from M11 we have a Fire Servant, so 3 and 2 red for a 4/3. If a red instant or sorcery spell you control would deal damage, it does double that damage instead. So again, like a really good effect, but like the Galvanoth, it's very dependent on what is in the rest of the deck to interact with this. But yeah, it is it is a really strong effect, I think, to double the damage of all your red instants and sorceries. And then we have like just some random creatures, I suppose. So we have 2 Koth's Couriers, so 1 and 2 red for a 2/3 with Forest Walk. Sure, like I guess okay. Not really sure what it's doing here. It's just kind of filling space, I suppose. It's just a 2/3 with Forest Walk. So if they're playing green, and if your opponent wants to, win in Scars and Mirrodin block, they're probably playing green because then they have access to infect creatures. So this will show them you got a 2/3 unblockable. That'll really make them think twice. I suppose at common it's alright, isn't it? 2 Neurok Commandos, 1 and 2 blue for a 2/1 with Shroud. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. This is okay. This is kind of like the standard kind of cost and size for like this kind of blue. Scroll. It's essentially Scroll Thief, isn't it? But like higher power, which actually makes it a bit more valuable. And Shroud makes it kind of is a nice bonus as well. It's all right, I suppose. Helps you draw cards into your other stuff, I guess. It's all right. And then 2 Peace Striders, 4 mana for a 3/3. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life. This is okay, but I've said it. I feel like I've said it before, but it's not as good as its Phyrexian counterpart, which makes you lose life it makes the opponent lose life when you play it. So yeah, this is fine, I guess. It's just here to kind of fill space. Honestly, this deck feels very pile of cards, honestly. And then 2 Lumen Grid Gargoyles, 6 mana for a 4/4 flyer. It's fine. It's basically colorless air elemental, isn't it? It's a big enough flyer to maybe like close out the game, but yeah, it's okay. Just a bit boring. It's essentially just air elemental. And then 2 Iron Mares and 1 Silver Mare. Again, just like kind of mana mares. Yep, sure. Just help you with your mana. Sure. And then 2 Ogre Resistors, just 2 and 2 red for just a 4/3 vanilla. Yeah, yeah, okay. So not amazing creatures, if we're being honest. Like, not maybe not using the best options. Like, I think you'd be disappointed if you're trying to win with combat in this game. So the other rare is Red Sun Zenith, and this is like a really good rare, I think. So X and a red does X damage to target creature or player, and if a creature dealt damage this way would die, it gets exiled instead, and then you shuffle Red Sun Zenith back into its owner's library. So this is like a really good rare, I think. Just like a repeatable X spell. Yeah, it gets shuffled back in, but I think just the opportunity of casting it more than once a game is pretty good. The fact it exiles, it disintegrates a creature, I think is pretty good. Unfortunately, this has anti-synergy with the Galvanoth because it's an X spell. So you reveal this, you can cast it out its mana without paying its mana cost, but it's entirely reliant on its mana cost being X. So that's kind of an unfortunate interaction, and would be, I think, quite a feel bad moment if you used Galvanoth to reveal this. But otherwise, like, really good rare, really like it. I have a single Burn the Impure, so 1 and a red, instant, does 3 damage to target creature, so yeah, like 2 damage, 2 mana for 3 damage is alright. And if that creature has Infect, Burn the Impure does 3 damage to that creature's controller. So potentially you gain quite a lot of value out of this if you target the right creature. Annoyingly it is conditional, but there are also a lot of Infect creatures in block, so this is okay, and like 3 damage is usually enough to kill most creatures with Infect, because most creatures with Infect are usually quite small to offset the fact they have Infect. I mean, that's not a hard and fast rule. There are some absolute chunkers with Infect. This was the set that gave us Blightsteel Colossus, like an absolute beast with 11/11 Infect. But yeah, this is okay, I guess. This is, but as terms of like anti-infect tech, this is it's kind of lacking a little bit, but it's all right, I suppose. Just a few more burn options here. So 2 Arc Trails. 1 red does 2 damage to target creature or player and 1 damage to another target creature or player. Yeah, this is fine. Like potential 2 for 1. Goes fire. The Fire Servant makes this really nice. Actually, doing 4 and then 2 is quite nice. There's 2 of them in the deck as well, which is quite nice. Single Lightning Bolt. I feel like I've said everything that could ever be said about Lightning Bolt. It's just a very efficient burn spell. Kind of a shame there's only 1, but it is an M11 card, so it's not the end of the world that there's only 1 in here. And then 2 Lava Axes, 4 and a red does 5 damage to target player. This is kind of something you'd actually want to hit with Galvanoth just because it is pricey. And if you have Fire Servant as well, that's just 10 damage straight out of nowhere. So yeah, it's okay. Like, it's just kind of expensive and a little bland. Like, we've seen Lava Axe a million times before. A single Melt Terrain, so it's an actual honest-to-God land destruction spell, which it feels like forever since we've had a land destruction spell in a precon. So 2 and 2 red, destroy target land, and it does 2 damage to that land's controller. So it's not only land destruction, but it is also burn as well. So this is actually, and at common as well, which feels like crazy that this was at common. At land destruction, because we're getting into the period now where like land destruction is just not seen really ever at all. So yeah, I've forgotten Melt Terrain was a card, honestly, but yeah, this is okay inclusion, I suppose. A single Crush, just 1 red mana, destroy a non-creature artifact. Yeah, sure. This is. I guess we got like living weapons in this set as well, so this could use that. And obviously like a lot of little utility artifacts. So this is okay, but I feel like just having 1 is a bit pointless. And then this is like, this inclusion really confused me. Rally the Forces. So 2 and a red, instant, attacking creatures get +1/+0 and get first strike till end of turn. So I have no idea why this was not in the white and red deck, the Battle Cries deck, why it's in here when you have kind of not great creatures, but I suppose this spell makes them into better creatures, I suppose. But then are you going to be attacking with the creatures in this deck? Because there's not that many creatures in the deck, and like most of them are kind of smaller utility creatures. I guess you got the Koth Courier, I guess you got the Neurok Commando, I guess, but like this, it's not a deck that I think is trying to win with combat damage, so it's weird to have like a combat trick in here. I guess maybe I don't know. I mean, like I think it's a good trick. Giving your whole board first strike is pretty strong. But yeah, I don't know. Just feels weird in this deck. It doesn't feel quite right. And then we got some kind of like soft control options here from the blue side of it. So two Quicksilver Geysers, so 4 and a blue, which is pretty expensive, but it's at instant speed and it is bounced to non-land permanents. So I think 5 mana is actually okay for this. Bouncing to 2 permanents in speed is pretty strong and could really set an opponent back. So I think this is okay. A single Turn the Tide, so ideally this is like a nice early game play to kind of stall out a bit more. So 1 in the blue to give creatures your opponent control -2/-0 on turn, so that's okay, I suppose. And 2 Call to Minds to get an instant or sorcery from your graveyard back into your hand. Again, that's okay, because I say you've got like a fair number of instant sorceries in the deck, so just doubling up on them or getting them back when you need them is okay. And then just more kind of M11 cards. A lot of M11 cards in this deck as well, which I'm not keen on. Like it always annoys me when, I don't know, I just feel like the deck should have more cards from the set it's trying to promote, I suppose, because at the moment this just feels like the M11 cards are taking up quite a bit of space. Yeah, and I feel like if you're having to resort to using a lot of M11 cards, maybe you just shouldn't do the deck you're trying to do, because like if you can't make it work with the cards in the set, maybe that's just me. But 2/4C, it's just 4 mana, scry 4, draw 2. Yep, that's fine. Preordain, single blue, scry 2 and draw a card. Makes this deck not modern legal because Preordain is banned in modern. And then a single sleep, 2 and 2 blue. We've seen sleep a million times. You just tap everything and they don't untap for a 10. So yeah, just stalls things out. And then 13 mountains, 11 islands. So what could have been? Yeah, I'm really not too impressed with like the card selection in this deck. It feels very pile of cards, like it's just been like, oh, I guess we'll get some, because I like red blue, and I think red blue spells is always like a good archetype, but there's just like not the cards in the card pool to make it work as a strategy, I suppose. I don't know where you could have gone with it. I guess I'm kind of happy it's not another Metalcraft deck, but yeah, I don't know. So what could have been? I guess Cryptoplasm. So this is, I really like Cryptoplasm actually. It's 1 and 2 blue for a 2/2. At the beginning of your upkeep, you have it become a copy of another type creature, and Cryptoplasm gains this ability. So it's kind of, I like it because it's like Clone that can keep, well, it's not exactly like Clone because it doesn't come in as a copy. You've got to wait a turn essentially. But it can keep essentially becoming a copy of like the best creature on the board, which I think is quite fun. Like as the board state changes, it can keep like updating itself. I think it's a fun little card. Kuldotha Flame Fiend could have gone in here just because it's like a burn effect. 4 and 2 red for a 4/4. When it comes in, you can sacrifice an artifact, and if it does 4 damage divided however you choose amongst any number of type creatures or players. So potentially a 4/1 there. Well, actually 4 for 2 because you're sacrificing an artifact, aren't you? But yeah, this could have worked in and sort of like fits the burn theme, I guess, that the deck has, and you've got like enough artifacts, I think, to sacrifice to it. And an alternate rare, Knowledge Pool, I thought could have been quite fun. So this is 6 mana, has imprint, and like we've not seen any cards with imprint either. Like we could have had a whole deck that cared about imprint. But yeah, it's such a shame. We barely get to talk about imprint. So imprint is it's not the same for every card, but it's there's some similarities. So when Knowledge Pool enters the battlefield, every player exiles the top 3 cards of their library. Whenever a player casts a spell from their hand, they exile it, and if they do, you cast another non-land card that's been exiled with Knowledge Pool without paying the mana cost. So this could be potentially like just throw the game into absolute chaos because you say you're an opponent, you both exile 3, so there's 6 cards in the pool. So whenever you cast a spell, I'm actually, now I think about it, I'm not really sure how it works. I don't think your spell as you cast it resolves. Instead, it gets exiled, and you then you put it into essentially the knowledge pool, and then you pick a spell from the knowledge pool instead and do that instead, which can be, I think, really wild, like as a game experience. It might make things like kind of too random, but I don't know, it's a fun effect. You could have had that in here, I suppose, but also I guess maybe it might be a bit too complex for a intro deck, I suppose. So in summary, yeah, I'm not wild on this one either for much the same reasons as the last one we looked at, Doom Inevitable, because it just feels like, I don't know, like a worse version of a deck we already had in a previous set. Like we had the blue-red Metalcraft deck, in Mirrodin Besieged, not Mirrodin Besieged, Scars of Mirrodin, and that felt like it had an identity because it was all around metalcraft as a mechanic. And now we have this one, and it's just like, I don't know, kind of pile of cards. I guess it's blue-red spells. I guess it's like the Doom Inevitable, which was like, we had the blue-black dead spread, which had a really tight strategy of like -1, -1 counts and proliferate, and then you had Doom Inevitable, and it's just like, it's kind of blue-black, I guess, but but not as focused on a strategy. And that's the feeling I get from this one. Like, I'm not too impressed by it. Like, I feel like it's pretty lackluster. I'm not happy with like a lot of the card selection in here, and like how many M11 cards are in here. I feel like if you got this and opened it up and saw I think there's about 10 M11 cards in here, and just be like, oh, okay, well, I kind of wanted Mirrodin Besieged cards, but okay, I guess I have all these M11 cards, and I don't know, just kind of not a great feeling, maybe, in my opinion. But yeah, so not happy with this one, honestly. It's not terrible, but yeah, just it doesn't impress me. But what are your thoughts on the deck after seeing it? If you've got any thoughts, comments, stories, opinions about the deck or any of the cards in it, stick a comment below. Always like reading those. But I'll be back next time to look at the last deck from Mirrodin Besieged, because there are only 4 decks in Mirrodin Besieged rather than usual 5. So yeah, we'll see you next time. Until then, thanks for watching and listening. Have a great day.